Hi everyone, this is Julima Awareness Consultancy in Bleuler, Theta in Juja, Kiambu, Kenya, East Africa in Africa. Today we just wanted to look about one or two of the psychiatric disease called schizophrenia and other psychotic disorders. And what is schizophrenia? We will hear about it. Dr. John Haslam, an early pioneer in the field of mental illness, published Observation on Madness and Melancholy. In 1809, he conceptualized schizophrenia as a form of insanity, stating the sensibilities appears to be considerably blunted. They do not bear the same affection towards their parents and relations. They become unfeeling to kindness, and careless to reproof. I have painfully witnessed this hopeless and degrading change, which in a short time has transformed the most promising and vigorous intellect into a slavering and bloated idiot. 40 years later, Benedict Moore, 1809 to 1873, a Belgian psychiatrist, standardized and formally described symptoms of schizophrenia using the terms dementia, loss of mind, and premature. The term in Latin is dementia praecox. The story of schizophrenia began in 1896. The Emil Kraepelin, a German professor of psychiatry, he brought together under one heading several types of mental abnormalities previously viewed as separate and distinct disorders, even though they shared similar underlying features. Kraepelin distinguished three subtypes. The first was catatonia, alternating immobility and excited agitation. The second is hypophlenia, silly and immature emotionally. And the third was known as paranoia, delusions of grandeur or persecution. He postulated that although clinical manifestation might differ, the central feature of the disorder was its early onset that ultimately developed in a mental weakness. He went on to identify several features occurring in dementia praecox, such as hallucination, delusions, and negativism. Further, Kraepelin believed that changes in the brain were of some importance in its course. He was the first to suggest that dementia started in early adolescence and evolved into a long-term chronic cause due to brain deteriorations. Eugene Bleuler, in 1911, a Swiss psychiatrist, extended Kraepelin conceptualizations and described a group of different schizophrenia characterized by disturbances of feelings, thinkings, and relationship to the outside world. He coined the term schizophrenia from the Greek word schizo, meaning split, and phren, meaning mind. This means term replaced terms such as madness, lunacy, and dementia praecox. Bleuler believed that underneath the person's unusual behaviors was an associative splitting of the basic functions of personality. He felt the most prominent feature of schizophrenia was the tearing apart of the individual's psychic functions. This, he believed, was especially evident in the loosening of associations between ideas, inappropriate behavior, and disorganizations of thought. Affect and actions. Blue did not intend to suggest the split madness represented two distinct personalities found in the person with dissociative identity disorder, rather than it denoted a certain personality. Bleuler believed the split referred to the widening gap between internal and external realities. The schism between thought, emotion, and behavior established what continues to remain as the most enduring description of schizophrenia. Blue isolated four fundamental diagnostic features, sometimes called the 4C, to identify the splitting of external reality. They are association, logical thought processes, when altered, speech losses, its coherence, or a loosening of associations, and connections among ideas, an absence of obscure. Communication may become highly idiosyncratic and individualized. That is, the person may create his or her own ones. Neologism. According to some form of spatial symbolism, an example of a neologism would be every time I hear the clink, snaps, and the bangs on the glass, I guess, I think, I know that's where Jesus clicks and clothes. Affect is the observable manifestation of a person's mood or emotion in a schizophrenia characterized by diminished emotions, flat or blunted, feeling disconnected from surrounding events, impersonating or performing within a room, and or emotional indifference to the surrounding world, reduction in pleasurable experiences. Autism is characterized by significant impairment in social interaction, communication, and restricted patterns evidenced by behavior, interest, or activity. Ambivalence is described as positive and negative values that often exist simultaneously. They include uncertainty about it taking a particular directions of frequently vacillations between two different perspectives and course of action. In the 1930s, Schema introduced first and second line symptoms, now known as positive and negative symptoms. They have become a significant factor in assessing schizophrenia. Snyder's first line symptoms are summarized in Table 3.1, his second line symptoms. How can you understand schizophrenia? Psychosis is traditionally defined as the loss of reality, testing, and the impairment of mental functioning manifested by delusions, hallucination, confusion, impaired memory, and inability to function within the interpersonal domain. The duration the domain, the exact cause of schizophrenia is unknown, but there is growing support for genetic and biological factors associated with its origin. Schizophrenia is characterized by a broad range of behaviors marked by a loss of the person's sense of self, significantly impaired in reality testing, and disturbances in feeling, thinking, and behavior. The individual is unable to distinguish the accuracy of their own perception and thoughts from external reality. More narrowly defined, psychosis described characteristics and behaviors involving delusions, prominent hallucinations, grossly disorganized or catatonic behavior, incoherent speech, aimless agitation to total immobility, and an affect that ranges from apathy and withdrawal to incoherent thinking. To complicate the practitioner's understanding of this syndrome, many of the above-mentioned features are not found in everyone with schizophrenia and can be found as part of other mental disorders. To understand each person and their distinctive cause of schizophrenia better, the competency-based assessment encourages the practitioner to look at the individual's capacity for interpersonal relationship, cultural influences, environmental and social factors, and coping resources. Despite the reality that some persons with schizophrenia can function productively, it remains a misunderstood picture of symptoms. Attitudes about those with mental disorders have varied throughout history, but no matter what the era. Another criteria: disturbances of audible thoughts, voices arguing, voices commenting to each other, somatic passivity, experience or inertia, thought in withdrawal, thought broadcasting, relational perception, or other experiences involving hallucinations or the inability to initiate or participate in important activities. Disturbance perception, sudden irrational ideas, perplexity, depressive and euphoric mood surges, feeling of emotional impoverishment. Person with schizophrenia have been maligned. Popular books, movies, and television have exploited and contributed to this misinformation. Sometimes newspaper headlines report ex-mental patients goes on wild shooting spree, or this may have occurred on some occasions. It contributes to fostering a false picture that persons with schizophrenia should be considered dangerous. These accounts help perpetuate a detrimental and negative picture. Schizophrenia interferes with almost every aspect of a person's interpersonal functioning and interpersonal world. It disrupts how they see their social environment, the manner in which they think, speak, and even move. While the emotional aspect takes a tremendous toll, the long-term financial expenses can also be quite devastating. A complex symptom picture characterizes schizophrenia, specific patterns of feature that tend to appear together. Schizophrenia has a chronic course, which generally include a prodromal phase, an active phase characterized by delusions, hallucinations, or both, and a residual phase in which the prevailing features are in remissions. In assessing for schizophrenia, the specific psychotic features and behaviors must be present for at least 1 month or less if successfully treated. During the active phase, the disturbance must persist for at least 6 months. Persons with schizophrenia do not always fit into these specific subcategories, thus causing confusion among practitioners about the usefulness of the assessments and guidelines. Cultural consideration. Schizophrenia is known aloud in the world and in most cultures and socioeconomic groups. When psychosis occurs, it is not viewed as a normal phenomenon and is always seen as an indication of some profound mental process. In some industrialized countries, researchers contend that schizophrenia is culturally created label for those people who behave in ways that are outside accepted cultural norms. As part of the competency-based assessment, the practitioner should take into consideration how mental illness is perceived within the person's culture. Also helpful is to examine the composition, structure of social and family support, and the level of social communication. As discussed in the following case of Rude Rosen, a person with schizophrenia can sage the resources of family members. Hope. we will talk about it later. I know it's a wide topic, but we will continue. You are hearing some ones like hallucination. Hallucination is when you are alone in the house, but you hear voices calling you. You hear, even if you are in the house, the doors are being banged and there is nobody who is banging the door. In your minds, you hear you are called by a person you know or you don't know, but when you go outside, there is nothing like that. You started seeing as if there is some animals in the house, but you are alone. That is hallucination. Which other one can I explain? I think we can talk about thought withdrawal. This is when someone who is in schizophrenia is out of mind. Not because he or she wants to be like that, but his brain is not functioning well. That is when you can see as a person can take a shout and kill a shout. That is when you can see if a woman can leave a child in the bed and go and forget there was a child in the bed. That is when you can see someone when was cooking food. She's yes was cooking and was there, but the brain, her his or her brain is not working to know it's a risk to leave that food in the fire. So he just moves on and sits, and this is when you can see a person laughing by her or his own. There is nothing which is making, which is fun, but just laughing. That is when you can, when you're walking, you can meet with somebody who was fairly dirty or unkept, his body is unkept and is talking all by his own or her own. Sometimes even you can meet if a lady being naked without any clothes. Don't laugh at that person. It's just a disease. It's called schizophrenia. There is a lot of type, and I think later I will discuss about 2 or 3 of them. Thank. Let's meet again. Subscribe, like, and comment so that I will continue. Thank.